Alright, we're just going to make the basic robot. So you have quite a few constraints that you need to follow when making a basic robot. Okay, you got to think about your wheels. So you can't have your robot extrude any more than 40 mil, or your wheels aren't going to touch the ground. Okay, you also have to think about a lid as well. So your lid is actually that's actually going to be 1.5. Okay, so and then you have to make the lid as well. So yeah, so we're just going to make the basic one. So to start off with, one thing that we need to remember as well is the minimum size to be able to hold all the electronic parts. Okay, so we need to make sure that all our parts are going to fit inside the robot. So it has to be at least 61 millimeters wide. So the motors sit side by side. It has to be at least 51 millimeters in length. That's so we can put all the stuff in the front. And it has to be at least 32 millimeters high. Okay, now that constraint depends on how high you have your lid, but you want to make sure that your height doesn't exceed the size of the wheels. Okay, so but these other ones are important. So you could have a really small and have big wheels. It's up to you. But for this demonstration, we're just going to make sure that it's 32 millimeters high on the inside. So these dimensions are on the inside, not on the outside. So that'll make it a little bit different. Right? So to start off with, so with these ones here, if we add an extra point, an extra 3 mil, because the outside is 1.5 for the thickness of our walls. Right, it's 1.9, 1.5 thick. We want to make sure they're fairly sturdy, so we'll make them 1.5. So we're going to start off by creating this box to start. So we just go new 2D sketch, and I'm going to go to the XZ plane. I'll put a rectangle. Now this rectangle is going to be, so let's bounce between here. The rectangle is going to be 61 millimeters wide. That's on the inside. So we want to make that plus a 3, so it's 64 on the outside. So we go 64, plug that in. And our other length was 51, so that's going to be 54. 54. So then that's the start. Now, what? Then we'll extrude that by. We're going to extrude that by. Now the height is 32 on the inside. So if we extrude that plus the 3 mil, that's going to be 35. And that's going to be, that gives us 1.5. So in total, that gives us our wheels to protrude it. I might make that 30. So to make that, so if I want the whole bot in itself to be 30 mil high, so if we go 30 mil, yeah, let's go 30. I'm gonna have that. Now, on the side of our robot here, we're going to make on the front, we want to have a scoop that'll drive underneath another robot. So I'm going to draw on this surface here, new sketch, click on this surface. I'm just going to draw myself basically just a triangle. And I'm going to bring that out about 60 mil, and then bring it back down here. Okay, so now that should be roughly, if we put our dimension tool on, we want to go from this line here to this point here. We don't want that to exceed 100 mil, so let's just make that 100 mil, okay? Because that's our size limits that we have. Okay. So now we're going to extrude this one here. And we're going to extrude it all the way to the sides. Instead of doing distance, we can just go 2. And then just click here, and then that'll go there. That's what we're after. Now, I want to curve this triangle around slightly. So I'm going to go new sketch on here. Then I am going to put a line down here, straight down here. Now to make sure it's straight, you see the 90 degrees, so we can write 90 degrees, and they'll stay at 90 degrees, there's no work for my mouse, and then I can click on that bottom there. Right click, go OK. Now I want to bring these lines into the sketch, so I've clicked on them. So what project geometry does is that brings lines from other sketches into the sketch that you're drawing on, because you want those ones too. Now if we go to model, we want to revolve. I want to revolve this triangle here, and the axis is this one here. Now it spins the whole way around, but I only want to go to, no, I want to go angle 90 degrees. Push OK. And now I'm starting to get that sort of swoop there. Now we're going to make sure we do that to the other side over here. Now, easiest way to do that is how wide was our robot here. So the width of our robot is 61. So half of that is going to be 30.5. What I want to do is I want to put a plane. So I'm going to offset a plane when my computer wants to. So if I click here, I want to offset this plane to go this way. So it's a negative. And I want to offset that to 30.5. 30.5, because that's going to be right in the middle. Push OK. Now, because I've done that, I can now use my mirror tool. I'm going to mirror features, this, and I'm going to mirror that on this plane here. Okay. Now that hasn't actually joined up, so that means that this plane here is not in the right spot. Let's have a look. What did I do wrong? I did 61. I didn't have the other 3 mil. So this work plane here is actually another. So how wide is it? It's 31. So it's going to be 32 wide. So that should be halfway. Oh, cool. Now that's snapped where we wanted it to snap. So now that we've done this, we're going to shell out. So now we're going to remove this face here, and then we're going to shell that by 1.5. Then if we push enter, now we've got our robot here like this. Okay. Now what we also want to do is we want to just make sure that the inside here has some supports. So on the inside, we're just going to draw on this surface here. We're just going to draw some rectangles. Alright, we're going to go from this line here straight down to there. So from here straight down to there. Now we can put dimensions on that. Make them 2 mil. And I'm going to make the distance from here, I'm going to make that 5 mil. Distance from here, 5 mil. Now, so we should have our rectangles there, so if we go extrude that, click on here, now we see how it goes fast here, so we change this to 2. and then we just click on that base there. So we change it to 2 next, and then that brings it up to, as you can see, next to that triangle. We'll push OK, and then so now that we've got extra supports on the inside there. So now we need to create a couple more things. So we need to have a hole in here for our motor. So let's go new sketch, draw on here. What I tend to do is I like to put my motors right on the back. So I'm going to draw motor. Now this is 10 mil high, 12 mil long. Now the distance between this here and here is 0. Okay. Now the height. So what we're going to do is I'm going to cut the top of this down by 1.5. So and then we'll make a lid to fit that. So to find out the height, you need to put this in the middle from here to here. So how high did we do that? We went 32 mil high. No, we didn't. I believe we only went 30. We can go here. Let me have a look at this extrusion. We went 30 mil. So, okay. Cancel that one. Double click back into the sketch here. So now we went 30 mil high. So this needs to sit in the middle, which gives us a 10 mil buffer between here and here. It's 10 mil. So that means that this should be 10 mil. Yep. So if I click that now, it'll tell me that there's too many because it's already over. It's already constrained. So now we're going to cut this one here out so we extrude it. And we're just going to cut. And we want to cut the whole way through. So just grab this little arrow and cut the whole way through. So now we've got area for our wheels to pop out, for our motors. Now on the back here, we need to create some holes for our motors to actually fit in so that our motor mounts are in place. Now our motor mounts, once my computer comes back, look like this. Alright, now they are 22.5 millimeters apart from each other. Okay, so these holes, so they're the holes that we're going to put onto this surface here. Okay, so now let's drop our holes in. So our holes are 3.5. I'm just going to copy that. And I'm just going to paste a whole bunch of them because I need 4. I'll just drag them roughly where I want them. Now, if you align them with each other, they should stay in line with each other. So the dimension that we want is this one to this one needs to be 22.5. Now, that gives us how much left? 22.5. That gives us 7.5 mil from each side. So that gives us half of that length here is going to be 7.5. Half of 7.5 is going to be 3.5, 3.75. 3.75. Need to click it. 3.75. And that looks like it's halfway. Now, and that's what's going to hold our motor's mounts in place. So now we need to make sure that this here has a distance. We're going to make that one there at least 12 mil. Put 21, not 12. And make sure this one here is 12 as well. So now they are aligned with each other. Do the same thing to the other side. 12 mil. Thinking. And the height between them would be 22.5. And the height to the bottom is going to be 3.75. 3.75. Okay. Now, with this one here, we might have some issues with our motor mount being a little bit too wide on the bottom, but that's okay. Now, so we want to extrude that. We want to cut these holes out here. That one, that one, that one. So select them all. And we want to go 1.5. And then we want to cut. And if we push OK, oh, that did not work. Extrude. It did cut it, but distance. Yep, so that should be fine now. So now we've got our motor mount holes. So that's going to hold our motors in place halfway out. Now, the next part that we need to do is to cut out this new sketch. So we're going to cut this down 1.5 mil. So to a rectangle from there to there. Now, have a look at these dimensions here. You want to cut this down 1.5 mil, but you also want to create a lid that is the same dimensions as these two here. So 64 by 54. Okay. So if I click that now, extrude that. So I'm going to cut 1.5 mil down so that I can make a lid to fit. And then I'll just basically we'll just glue the lid on there. Now you want to make sure that your lid is open so that you're able to turn your robot on. I'll make a lid in another video. But that is your basic robot finished. Okay.